You're 18 in 1944, Okayama, Japan, arranging cedar combs in your father's small village shop. The scent of wood shavings hangs thick in the air. Behind you, your father shapes a block of wood, his hum matching the scrape of his blade. Through the open door, the drone of cicadas drift in, carried on the heat, folding into the rhythm of work passed down for generations. Then the bell above the door chimes. You look up expecting a customer, but instead see polished black boots, pressed uniform, and a face carved from stone. He's the Imperial Navy recruitment officer, and he's here for you. The officer places 3 sheets of paper on the counter like death notices. Your father's humming dies. His blade pauses mid-carve. Choose one, the officer says, voice flat as winter rain. You read, Option 1, I passionately volunteer to die for the Emperor. Option 2, I volunteer to die for the Emperor. Option 3, I do not volunteer to die for the Emperor. Sounds like a choice, right? Wrong. Your name is already printed on each form. Everyone will know what you picked. Choosing option 3 is like tattooing coward across your family name. But even if you do say no, it doesn't matter. Just ask Kuroda, the boy who declined, only to find his name listed as a proud volunteer anyway. The officer left with a perfect self-claimed 100% sign-up rate. Your hands tremble as you reach for the pen like it's a murder weapon. The cedar scent now smells like a funeral. Congratulations, you're Tokutai, Japan's Special Attack Force. They named it after the divine wind that once saved Japan from the Mongol invasion. This time, you are the wind, and you're expected to explode on contact. 3 days later, your flight training begins at a base where they've never heard of landing practice. Why waste time learning skills you'll never use? Captain Watanabe explains with a horror movie smile. This week, we learned takeoff. Next week, navigation. Next, how to aim at moving targets landing. What's landing? The planes are basically bombs with wings. American pilots get 240 hours of training before combat. You get 40 hours and a prayer. It's like learning to drive by, only practicing how to start the car and steer towards a cliffhanger. Your advanced combat training involves aiming practice on painted ship targets. The instructor points like he's discussing vacation spots. Hit the flight deck on carriers, maximum damage. Hit the bridge on destroyers. Takes out command, maximum damage. At 18, your career counselor is teaching you to be a human torpedo. The psychological conditioning is relentless. Every meal starts with death meditation. Every evening ends with writing letters explaining why dying in a fireball is awesome. They're obsessed with cherry blossoms, flowers that bloom briefly and fall quickly, like the sakura. Commander Takagi explains, you will shine beautifully before falling for the Emperor. You start believing it too, because admitting you're in a death cult is too terrifying. Emperor Hirohito is literally a living god under Shinto religion, not metaphorically divine, actually genuinely a walking, talking, bespectacled deity who apparently needs glasses to see his divine destiny. You're supposed to die for someone who's immortal but wears corrective lenses, all-powerful but needs teenagers to blow themselves up to save his empire. Logic is flawless if you don't think. The religious manipulation runs deep. They promise dying in battle transforms you into a kami, a divine spirit protecting Japan forever from Yasukuni Shrine. Your final words to friends aren't goodbye, but see you at Yasukuni. But the cultural pressure goes beyond religion. In Japan's shame-based society, refusing means your entire family becomes outcasts. Parents, siblings, grandparents. Everyone suffers for your cowardice. Emotional blackmail wrapped in patriotic ribbons. 6 months in, and Tokutai training makes prison feel like summer camp. The hierarchy is simple. Anyone above your rank can beat you bloody for any reason. Uniform wrinkle? Beating. Salute too slow? Beating. Glance at the Emperor's photo the wrong way? Beating. Your day begins at dawn with calisthenics, gun maintenance, survival drills, and corrective instruction that looks a lot like torture. Pilot in training Irokawa Daikichi, a soft-spoken boy from Kagoshima, took a rifle stock to the face until he was unrecognizable. His bunkmate was slammed headfirst into concrete. He never came back from the infirmary. But this brutal treatment makes you almost welcome kamikaze missions. At least flying into a destroyer means the pain stops. Death becomes less terrifying than another day of systemic brutalization. The beatings aren't random. They're psychological warfare designed to break your will until you become a compliant weapon. ready to be aimed and fired. A few days later, after evening drills, you're crouched in the barracks, polishing your boots when Yamamoto slides a folded paper under your hand. "From my cousin," he murmurs. "Keep it hidden." It's a letter, written in a cramped hand. I struggled to convince myself I had to die. I thought my death would be pointless. Even if Japan won, my family would die in the gutter because I wouldn't be there to support them. It tormented me. You look up. Who's this from? Student pilot and Kyushu philosophy major before they pulled him out of class. They're pulling all the young ones now. 3,000 teenage conscripts. The rest, university boys. Almost none of the academy officers volunteered. The paper feels heavier than it should. You've been told Kamikaze was the purest form of honor, but here, in smudged ink, was proof it was just another order dumped on those too young to refuse. Spring, 1945. You're 19, and your number's up. You crouch inside the Oka slum under the belly of a lumbering G-4M Betty bomber. Basically, a flying coffin with you as the payload. Top speed? Fast enough to make survival impossible maneuverability? About the same as a falling anvil. Survival rate? We don't talk about that. The send-off is pure theater, a white headband tied right across your brow, a shallow cup of ceremonial sake that tastes like liquid regret, speechless about joining the ancestors in glory. Mechanics bow as you pass, either out of respect or because they'll never see you again. The Betty lurches into the sky, engines straining under the weight of death. You're crammed into Oka's tiny cockpit, surrounded by enough explosives to level a city block. For 30 minutes, you're nothing but cargo, locked under the bomber's belly. The Pacific crawling below, blue and indifferent. You can't even see the target yet. Only endless water and the inside of your own helmet. Then, through the radio, crackles. Approaching target zone. USS Manert LBL spotted. Prepare for release. A violent shudder, and suddenly you're free. The Betty peels away, leaving you alone in the sky. You hit the rocket switch. The acceleration crushes you into the seat, your vision tunneling as the altimeter needle burrs. From release to over 600 miles an hour in seconds, a gut punch speed that makes maneuvering pointless and survival impossible. The destroyer swells in your vision, gray steel slicing through white waves. Other Okas from the waves streak ahead, each becoming a brief, violent blossom of fire and smoke. For a split second, instinct begs you to pull up to fake a malfunction, find any excuse to live, but there's nowhere to go. Your Oka carries no landing gear, no excess fuel, no radio home. It was never designed for return trips. The months of conditioning kick in, the shame of letting your family down, the promise of Yasukuni Shrine. The cherry blossom metaphor is about beautiful, brief existence. All the slogans flood back, drowning out the one sane thought. This is insane. You think of your mother, maybe setting rice before your photo right now, not knowing her son is seconds away from becoming debris on the ocean floor. You think of the shop you'll never open, the life you'll never live, children who will never exist because the men giving orders plan to survive this war. The destroyer's deck explodes in size, every rivet visible, sailors scatter, some diving for cover, some frozen in place. Somewhere, someone's shouting into a radio, but nothing can stop what's coming. 3 seconds, a white flash, and then nothing. But those 3 seconds stretch forever, long enough to understand that this wasn't heroic sacrifice, it was a waste. Waste of your life, waste of potential, waste of everything you could have been if powerful men hadn't decided your death was more valuable than your existence. Your name gets added to Yasukuni Shrine. Your family receives a folded flag and official condolences. Military reports list you as one successful kamikaze attack among thousands. The war continues for 9 more months before Japan surrenders anyway. Somewhere in the Pacific, fish swim through wreckage that was once an 18-year-old boy who just wanted to open a shop in his village. The kamikaze program killed 3,800 Japanese pilots, most of them barely trained conscripts. In some campaigns, hit rates reached a peak of 27% compared to an average of 2% for conventional attacks. Sinking 47 Allied ships and damaging hundreds more strategically, it was a failure. No major American carriers or battleships were destroyed, and it may have pushed the US toward using atomic bombs. Their letters speak of family, love, and fear, not fanaticism. They weren't born to die. They were convinced their deaths mattered more than their lives. That's a truth no cherry blossom metaphor can make beautiful.